Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, let me give you permission to hop off mute. 1 second. All right. I'll make you a co-host as well. Hello, can you hear me all right?
I can, yeah. Hi, Mariella.
Yes, it's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, can you pronounce your name for me?
Nilima, like silly.
Nilima, thank you so much. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, where are you calling from today, Nilima?
LA.
Beautiful, my home city. I was born in LA.
Oh, really? Oh, no way.
Yeah. We can totally talk when we finish this conversation, see, how we can cruise paths and collab and stuff like that. I love when I'm meeting people in Southern California. I'm all the way in Patagonia right now. That's why I say.
Patagonia?
Yeah.
Wow. I actually studied abroad in Chile.
Beautiful. Nice.
Didn't make it to
All right.
Patagonia, though.
Well, now you have a reason. All right, we might get some folks joining us ahead of time, so I'm just going to give you a little spiel and just kind of prep you, and then if you have any questions, you just let me know.
Okay.
And so if you are joining us ahead of time, thank you so much for joining us. We're just chit-chatting behind the scenes, and we will officially be going live here shortly, so feel free to hang out with us, or you can hop off and come back later. All right, so Nilima, the hour's gonna fly by super quickly, you're gonna see. So I'll let everyone on the call know when we've got about 10 minutes left, just in case there's something you didn't get a chance to touch on, or someone wants to use those last 10 minutes to hop off mute or ask a question. I'll let everyone know that we've got 10 minutes to shine. And I always say that a successful chat is, if we stay stuck on a couple questions. I know you have a beautiful presentation as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming you're probably going to touch on a lot of the questions in your presentation. But, if we stay stuck on a couple questions for the full, hour, in addition to your presentation, I don't want you to, that's a successful chat versus do you think you need to rush your way through the hour for getting all the questions answered? So my main point there is to take your time, go in as deep as you'd like. I've made you the co-host so that you can present your screen, and I will kick off the chat by presenting my screen. Doing an introduction, I'll briefly introduce myself, and then Nilima, I'll pass the mic to you so that you can introduce yourself. At that time, you'll have your photo and your bio on the screen, and you can read what's there, or you can speak casually however you'd like to introduce yourself. And then I'd love for you to cover that last slide that talks about the principal themes for today's conversation, which are those 3 bubbles that you and Paloma went over. Again, you can read what's on the screen there, or you can speak casually. And at that point, I'll stop sharing my screen, and you have full permission to share your screen, go through your presentation. I'll be there to let you know if anything comes in the chat. You don't need to simultaneously type in the chat. I would love if you can actually stay present in the camera so that I'll bring anything up that comes in the chat. But if people do write to you privately, I don't have access to that, and you will need to flag that however you'd like.
Got it. Perfect.
Awesome. Any questions?
No questions.
Great. Do you have some water or tea or coffee, something to keep you hydrated?
Yeah, I have water. I have so much water. I drink so much water on these things for some reason because of all the energy. It's like water.
Great. I've got my tea here. You're right. And then, you want to stay hydrated anyway. So I like to also invite live callers to get water, or get their coffees or teas, just to stay hydrated with us, even though coffee doesn't really necessarily hydrate you, but I know people like that buddy around.
Any idea about the breakdown between like founders versus people working at companies for this session?
Paloma, if you have information on that, if not, we can just maybe ask people when they join us.
Ask when they come on. We can do a little poll.
Yeah. So what's the poll? And I'll make sure I'll repeat it a little later.
Are you a founder or working or at a company, I guess?
Great. So if you're just joining us, we're just already getting to know each other here. So just our guest speaker is interested to know if you are already a founder or if you currently work at a company, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Great. So go ahead and write that in the chat box. If you're just joining us, hello and welcome, everyone. We're going to get started here shortly.
Mariella, I can do a couple of questions at the beginning of my presentation, when everyone's here. So yeah, I can just ask them then.
Cool, cool. Perfect. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, but also I do want to go ahead and start to engage with our live callers. So if you're joining us, hello and welcome. You all are our early birds today. We're going to get started in about 5 more minutes. Actually, I like to get started a little after our set time, just to give any latecomers a chance to join with us. So if you're already here, hello and welcome. We'd love to know where you are in the world. I'm calling from Patagonia. I'm originally from where our guest speaker is calling from. She's calling from Los Angeles today. So let us know where you are in the world as we wait for more folks to join. And Nalima, we had 239 RSVPs for today. So we'll see how many people show up. Some people rewatch. And either way, I'll explain, to folks how they can make sure that they get the information from today's conversation. So as folks are joining, go ahead and drop in the chat box. We got Atlanta representing, Dallas, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona. Awesome. So just let us know where you are in the world. Just drop that in the chat box. And we're going to get started here shortly. You can also turn cameras on if you feel called to do so. I'll extend the official invitation shortly, but feel free to turn your cameras on if you are in the space to do so. Otherwise, just go ahead and write in the chat box. Let us know where you are in the world. And in just about 4 more minutes, we're going to get started. So just making our introductions in the chat. All right, Chicago, hello. Philly represent, awesome. And I'll also remind you all, get some water, coffee, tea, whatever your beverage of choice is at this time. We'd love for you to stay hydrated with us. So get your waters refilled. You got about 4 more minutes before we go live here. Great, it's good to see people joining. All right. Hello and welcome everyone. Good to see you all here today. We're gonna get started in about 3 more minutes. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and start recording to the cloud, but Nalima, I won't start until I give an official countdown, just so you know.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna get started in about 3 more minutes here. I see we got more folks joining us today. Hello and welcome everyone. Feel free to turn on your cameras if you feel called to do so. Hey, what's up, kid? I see you. Thanks for turning your cameras on if you are. If not, no pressure, just go ahead and write in the chat box. Let us know where you are in the world. And I'm actually going to start to share my screen so that we can get started for today's presentation. All right. And Alima, give me a thumbs up when you can see my screen share. It looks like it's loading on my end, but just, okay, perfect. Want to make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. All right, hello and welcome everyone. We got Austin representing Ohio, San Jose, California, Chicago, New York City, Philly, Phoenix, Atlanta, Dallas, Baltimore, Maryland, Brazil and Rio, Valencia, Spain, nice. Montreal and Canada, great. Thank you all so much for dropping where you're calling from in the chat box. We're gonna get started here in just about 2 more minutes, just giving everyone a chance to start with us on time. But I'm so happy that you all are here early. And if you're just joining, please go ahead and drop in the chat box and let us know where you are calling from today. I'll give you all a shout out here shortly. And I'm excited about this conversation. I like to see where people are. So Nalima, if you know of anything going on where people are here, drop it in the chat. You just give them a shout out. All right, we got Chicago, Israel, Washington, DC, San Francisco Bay Area. Awesome. Thank you all for dropping in chat box. So we're gonna get started here in just about 60 more seconds. I see we got more folks logging in, and I know we might get a lot of folks rewatching this as well. So I'm just happy to have you all here starting with us right on time. And great. So I see we got a couple more people joining. If you're just joining, hello and welcome. We're just getting started here. So just go ahead and drop in the chat box. Let us know where you are in the world. All right. All right. Portland, Oregon, great. All right, so I don't want to waste any more time. I want to go ahead and get started. If people don't start with this on time, they'll just have to rewatch from the beginning. So Nalima, if I get a thumbs up from me, I'll go ahead and kick us off here. Awesome. So we're going to go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, we are live. Hello and welcome everyone to another Chat and Learn here with Power to Fly. My name is Mariella Marie, and as always, super excited to roll into this next hour with you all. Our guest speaker is calling from my birth city in Los Angeles, California, but I'm currently in Patagonia in Argentina, and I know that a lot of folks are joining from all over. So if you're just joining, go ahead and drop in the chat box where you are in the world, and in just a few moments, I'll give everyone a big fat shout out so you can see the power of global community here. I know that you all are really interested in this topic. You all have submitted some great questions previous to this conversation. In just a few moments, we're going to roll into those questions. But before we get started, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping rules so that we all feel comfortable and confident in this next hour here. So we would love for you to participate. You could be doing anything else with your time. Of course, a million things going on in the world. So whether you're here live with us or rewatching, you just want to say thank you for participating in this conversation today. If you're here live with us, you can participate in a number of ways. You can turn on your cameras if you feel called to do so. I believe in visibility, and this is a safe space here. I'm not afraid to kick people out if we're not being respectful of everyone's voices. So you have the invitation to turn on your cameras. But no pressure, because I know that digital fatigue and video fatigue is real. So there's no shame there, but just go ahead and feel free to use the chat box whenever you do want to share something. And I'll be sure to raise that as time allows to our guest speaker here. So if anyone at any point wants to hop off mute to voice a question or reflection, you can do that by just letting me know by raising your emoji hand. And that will let me know that you want to be queued up for the line to hop off mute. If you don't know how to raise your emoji hand or you don't want to, don't worry. Just write in the public chat or message me privately, letting me know you want to hop off mute, and I'll give you permission to do so. If anyone has any sensitive information and you prefer to be kept anonymous, you can find me in the chat box under Mariella Marie. You can write to me privately, and I will raise your question or your reflection to our guest speaker and keep you anonymous. If you do hop off mute, you will be featured in our live recording as this is being recorded. And everyone who signed up for this chat, be looking out for a rewatch email that will include a link to this video so that you can rewatch it and share with your community, your friends. And also we'll have any links to resources that our guest speaker might mention in the hour. So be looking out for that. And the last thing I'll say is we'd love for you to follow Power to Fly on socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up with all the great chats we've got in store. And if this is your first time joining, sorry, just having some toggling issues there. If this is your first time joining where I am moderating, just take a couple seconds to introduce myself. So again, my name is Mariella Marie. I really love speaking about specifically the importance of emotional intelligence at home, at work, and at play. I feel like we have a lot of room to grow there. So I might bring some of my reflections to that note if anyone is interested in philosophizing or sharing actionable tips and steps on how we can be more emotionally intelligent. Please drop those in the chat box, and I would love to just connect with you there. Otherwise, you can support the project that I'm working on that is called the Positive Force Team. You can go to thepositiveforceteam.org. You can sign up for my newsletter, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to chat there. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to our guest speaker who's calling all the way from Los Angeles. Nalima, let us know a little bit about yourself, how you came to learn about Power to Fly, and what you're excited to share with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mariella. Hi, everyone. My name is Nilima Achwal, and I am the founder of the Female Founders Lab, which is a virtual startup accelerator that is we work with ventures and venture ideas that can transform our industries to become more regenerative, sustainable, holistic, democratic, or just. So we focus on these really big industries that are now crumbling and making the way for radical transformation in our world. So looking at healthcare systems, education, food systems, cities, future of work, media, prison systems, etc. And I primarily work with my methodology, which I'm going to share with you guys today, which is super powerful, and it's called Goddess Leadership. And it's about letting the feminine side of you lead. And I believe that's what creates quantum outcomes. It's like a nonlinear paradigm. And previously, I'll talk about what I've done in the past, but that's a little bit about what I'm doing now. Yeah, learn about Power to Fly. I think I've been in touch with you guys for the last year. So I was very excited to hop on and offer to do a chat and learn for you guys this month.
Awesome. So beautiful to have you here today. I'm super interested in just having you share knowledge. Congratulations on all the things. And I know that you'll probably share more of your story as you roll into your presentation and go into these questions. But before we go to our questions, can you set the stage by just going over some of the principal themes for today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I want to say is that I work with transformative containers. So that means that we're not just using our minds today, we're bringing all of our energy and beliefs and everything on board. So there's like a few rules that I want to set before I talk about the themes, okay? So first of all, we're dialing in from all over the world, which is so amazing because we all have this shared mission, which is to learn about how to pitch like a goddess. And so a few rules that I have for today is number one, I would like you guys to shut off all notifications, all tabs, phones and everything, because this is a really special and sacred almost experience that I'm going to be taking you guys through. And so I want you to be fully present in your energy and to be connected to the other 60 or so people who are on the call with you today, because everyone's energy is going to create a shift for each other. Number two is that I would encourage you to stay all the way to the end in order to get the most out of this session. I know that there's distractions and stuff, but just slot it out and make a promise to yourself to stay all the way to the end. And I will be offering a gift at the end of my presentation, free gift for you guys. And also the third rule is like, please be super active in the chat box. I'm an extrovert. Well, I think I'm an introvert and an extrovert, but my extroverted side really appreciates the bounce back of energy and just knowing like what's going through your mind and being able to address that even as I'm going through my presentation or answering your questions. So I feed a lot off of you. So if you can just be super active in the chat, that will make this super fun for everyone. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, I'm just gonna be like, see how excited I just got? Like, that's how excited I'm gonna get every time that someone puts something in the chat box. Thank you. So the principal themes for today. So as you know, I work with early stage impact founders. And so I work with, let's do this. Okay, so I work with founders who feel like your vision chose you, that you have a mission on earth that you're here to carry out. And what happens when you come from that space is that sometimes it's hard to reconcile that with the hard-nosed pitching side of things and raising funding. And there's a lot of misconceptions and myths as well when you try to go in and raise VC funding. And I'm here to tell you, like, you can stay in that mission-centric place and like in your body and in your heart. And actually that's what's going to create the results for you. So that's from that place, we're talking about how to tune up your venture message, how that reflects in your pitch deck when you're pitching to investors, how to hustle and do less and be more of a magnet for the values aligned people that you want to bring into your venture. And then also just how to stay like super emotionally detached as you're going through the process of inviting all these people into your venture as a funder or sponsor, partner, whatever it is, and not being swayed with every conversation. So yeah, those are the three major themes.
Yes, great. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that we're going to dive in. You're already super enthusiastic. I'm glad that you got your water next to you as well. And I see we got more folks joining. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can allow for our guest speaker to start her presentation. And just before she gets started here, I know that you wanted to gauge the crowd and ask a specific question. So can you throw that question out? And then I'm going to shout out where folks have dropped in the chat box so people can be thinking about it.
Yeah. Can I just do it like as I start? I can just
Sure. Absolutely. So just to keep in mind where people are calling from. So we got Baltimore, we've got Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, we got Phoenix, Philly, Chicago again, San Jose, California, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Valencia, Spain, Rio, Brazil, Montreal, Canada, Israel, We've got Washington, D.C., San Francisco area, Orange County, awesome, Nevada. So thank you all for dropping in the chat box. And so now I will just give the full reins to you to go ahead and start your presentation. And then remember, you have the invitation to stick around to the end because we're going to dive into like more specific questions from you all after the presentation. And also, I'm going to invite you all at some point to drop in the chat box your preferred way of connecting. So I really like to use these opportunities to start to practice what we preach. And I'm all about building meaningful connections and relationships. And I know that our guest speaker probably has a lot to share about that as well. So since we're all here, we're like-minded right now in this specific topic. Please grab those links and whenever you're prompted to do so, because I know our guest speaker wants you to be focused right now, I will ask you all to drop your preferred ways of connecting in the chat box so that you can reach out to a couple of people here who have joined us today and maybe, continue the conversation there. All right, so over to you, Nilima.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mariella. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Nilima Ajwal. I'm the founder of the Female Founders Lab. And as I said at the beginning, we're virtual accelerators for ideas that can transform systems and industries. And so today I'm going to talk to you about how to pitch like a goddess. So I want to know really quick off the bat, are you a founder or do you work inside a company? So I can see kind of the breakdown of how many of you are actually like have your own thing versus just looking generally how to pitch. Thanks, Jessica. Founder, done both. Minion in a corporation. It's okay. We've all been there. Founder, company, want to be a founder, both. Minion. Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. And as you keep sharing, I'll be reading them, but I won't necessarily be saying it out loud. All right, so let's jump on in. So this is a picture of me back in August of 2016 on stage at the Bombay Stock Exchange. So this is culminating a 6-week intensive elite tech accelerator that I have been part of in India. Where I basically had been living for the previous 5 years and building out my venture in India. And so this tech accelerator, it's like they picked only the top 12 tech ventures from across the country. So it's like 1% acceptance rate. And I poured my heart and soul into building this pitch deck to raise my seed round. And this is the dress rehearsal for our demo day. So the next day, there's going to be investors flying in from all over the world. There's going to be people representing corporations like Google, the government of India is going to be there. So it's like a high stakes moment for me. So how did I end up on stage at the Bombay Stock Exchange getting ready to give this pitch? Well, so I was in India working on a social impact accelerator that was later funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. And in December of 2013, there was a highly publicized rape case that happened in New Delhi. And this was like one of those watershed moments where collective trauma and grief just like explodes across the country. And we've seen these sort of moments in our own country as well. And when these sort of moments happen, you see the sort of like the startup ecosystem has like its go-to ways of solving it. So we started seeing a proliferation of apps because apps can change the world, right? So we see like safety apps, like panic buttons. We're seeing like product solutions. So like one of the more ridiculous solutions that I saw was an electric bra that gives off shocks if someone's trying to molest you, like in the subway or something. And as I saw these solutions come out, I'm like, hey, these are well-intentioned. People are trying to solve this problem, but this is not actually going to heal and transform this problem at scale. Like I want to come up with a systemic solution that can actually transform this issue for the next generation. And so that's when I created a comprehensive sex education toolkit that could be used by teachers like in classrooms all across the country. And so the basic thing was that it was completely game-based, it was really positive, taboo-free, but moreover, it created a behavioral shift in the classroom. And so this is me in a slum classroom in Mumbai running my course and teaching these kids about consent and menstruation and puberty and sex. And And so this is a Teach for India classroom. If you're familiar with Teach for America, similar thing. And so this is a classroom where like the room is like literally as big as you see in this photo. Like you have to walk in first and then all the kids pile in. And there's no like way to go around. That's how tiny this classroom is. And this is a school where basically they've told us that, you know, these kids are literally like, this classroom is about to break. We can't teach. They're not doing any work. Like it's just bullying, harassment, teasing all the time. Because there's so much unspoken like tension in the kids that's not being addressed. And so girls are getting harassed, like walking to school, like little boys are getting harassed by older boys, like just completely out of control. So they brought us in to do this program. I ran this pilot. And at the end of the program, I got testimonial from a little boy who came up to me and said, you know, before I used to think it was right to get a girl at any cost, but after you taught us, my mind changed completely. And I'll never do that again. And what's more, I'm educating all the other boys in the school about consent. So as you can see, there was a massive behavioral shift that happened in the classroom and even with the girls. And basically like 3 months later, we went into the same classroom and all the teachers kind of stood up and gave us a standing ovation. And they're like, you changed our most bullying, toxic classroom into the most respectful, kind, empathetic classroom in the whole school. And so can you do this with the rest of the grade levels, right? And so this was the moment that as a founder, I was like, wow, I have literally spent the last 4 months like holed up in my apartment with my couple of teammates with like just a little bit of friends and family capital, like building the solution that I thought could change the world. And now look, it's actually changing the world. But that's the moment where it's like, oh my God, it's actually working. What do I do now? And it's like, I have to get this in the hands of everyone across the country. And that's the hard part. That's the hard part because we're looking at a taboo that's been around for 3,000 years. None of the adults have ever had sex education. So when I'm talking to parents and teachers and principals and CEOs of ed tech companies, they're like, sex education, you want to teach our kids how to have sex? It's like, no, let me go back 6 steps and explain to you what this actually is, and then try to sell it to you. So the reality of the impact that's happening on the ground needed to be translated into a very old and traditional culture. And that's what I learned in my journey, is like how to do that. And so basically I'm like, okay, I need to bring this out to kids all over the country, completely running out of cash. Literally, there's almost no money in my bank account left by the time that I go through this accelerator and I'm ready to raise this round. And that's why I'm on the stage of the Bombay Stock Exchange, giving my pitch at the dress rehearsal with all my heart, all my soul, being like, this better work and somebody better invest in me tomorrow. And so I finished my pitch and I'm like holding my breath and I'm like waiting for feedback from the mentors of the accelerator. And I'm like, what is that feedback that's gonna make this whole thing work? And there's just silence. People are just like, they're just like looking at me. And one of the mentors just kind of is just like looking at me and she's just like pushes up her glasses and she's just like, what's that font you're using? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, like I can't even like read the font, like, and you don't even have any animations between the slides. Like, did you even spend any time on this? Did you spend? And she's like, and then she just looks, she's like, my 10-year-old nephew could have done a better job than this. And I'm just like standing there in front of all the mentors. I'm like, okay, does anyone else have any feedback for me? Like nothing. I'm like, okay. Right, missed the point completely. Exactly. And if anyone, if you guys have ever been through like there's a lot of diverse experience that happen inside the tech ecosystem. And I've heard that many people have had similar experiences of not being seen or heard or received in what you're actually trying to do. But anyway, at that moment, I was devastated, to say the least. I had given up my entire life in the US to move to India and try to change the world. So there has been a lot of sacrifice and a lot of just a lot that I've poured into this venture over the past 2 years. So I went home and I was devastated. And I was like, if people can't see or hear me, then what am I doing here? Like, why am I even doing this? And so I decided to, in 6 months, just close up shop and move back to the US. So when I left India, I left behind my brand, my venture, but I also left behind my identity. I left behind the identity that I had constructed for myself in the startup ecosystem. And I also left behind the pressure that the startup ecosystem had been placing on me and that I had been placing on myself. So I went home and I'm sitting then a few months later at my parents' dining room table in Northern California. And it's very quiet and leafy. It's like birds chirping outside. And I get an email from the largest corporation, largest, oldest, most reputable corporation in India, which is called Tata. And they say, we've been following your work closely and what you're doing is so revolutionary. And we'd actually like to license your content and bring it out to 600,000 students across every single city, town, and village across the country. And we're willing to go in and train all of the schools using our own facilitators on your curriculum. So, yep, that was India, but I was back in the States at this point. So this is the moment where this sigh went through my body. And I was like, for every time that I had a door shut on me, or I felt like people weren't receiving what I was trying to do, I had been right all along. My vision had been spot on all along. And that's when I realized I did this first with a team of 3 people in a foreign country with friends and family capital, doing something which had never been done for thousands of years. There's no precedent for this. I didn't have any connections. So how did I do this? How did I create this scale of results, like doing something that governments and private sector corporations haven't been able to do in this country? So what I realized is that I had been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. I'd been following a feminine leadership paradigm inside a masculine ecosystem. Oh, this is so funny. Rashmi said I worked for Tata for 7 years. What a crazy coincidence. I'd been following a feminine leadership paradigm, which is what I call goddess leadership. So, what is goddess leadership? So just checking on the time here. We are good so far. What is goddess leadership? Number one, my vision chose me. I was a channel for my vision to come through me. So basically, after that Delhi rape case happened, I was overtaken by anger. I was overtaken by angst and restlessness. And I'm like, I can solve this. You ever feel that roar? I can solve this. Like, why is this a thing still, right? And I had the lived experience of having written curriculum for top tier business schools, having been a teacher in Princeton Review classrooms, having grown up between an Indian and American culture. Like, I had all of the embodied lived experience, and like even having worked with social impact founders and run an accelerator, so I knew how venture worked. I had all the lived experience to be a channel for this vision to come through me. And that's why I say my vision chose me. It chose the vessel that was well equipped to carry it out. there's another way that people run ventures, because a lot of people are like, okay, I need to make money. Do I do crypto? Do I start like a restaurant? Do I, do I start trading on the stock market? Like a lot of men in our lives perhaps like have that sort of very tactical mentality when it starts to starting businesses. But many of us are purpose driven in that we feel like this is just something I have to do, and there's no reasoning behind it. So if that's you, then it's really important to honor that and understand how that mechanism works, because it's not well talked about in our ecosystem.
Wait, can we just do a pause? You're dropping a lot of information right now. Like, can we just take a deep breath in and like soak that in? Because I would actually love to just put this on repeat. Is real talk. Thank you so much. Do you have like a little, can we do a moment of silence to just recognize the vision and the vision in all of us, and to like break the system that was not allowing us to manifest the visions that come through us? Yes. Let's moment of silence, please.
Thanks, babe. You're so good at reading the energy. I love, that's really good facilitation, especially on Zoom.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, look, emotional intelligence, I'm all about it. And that is all about like respecting, your self-awareness, knowing that you don't do this alone. You don't have all the answers, like it's getting deeper. We talk about a lot of the superficial stuff, networking. You might think it's like scratching the surface, but really it's to dig your roots in deep, right? And share your message and make the connections that you need to make. And there's so much change happening. There's so much opportunity. And this is the framework that we need. And I think what you just finished saying, that's why I wanted to pause after that, because it's clear. It's clear. And I'm happy that you're able to show us through your lived experience that it is true. And thank you for that. So we got folks singing your praises here in the chat. Thank you so much. Continue, please.
Thank you for that so much. I appreciate it deeply. So the major insight here is anchoring into my vision and my unique ability to carry out was fundamental. So I'm going to get into this later about what this means for your pitch deck. So number 2, goddess leadership, was that I created a container for others to join me in my vision. So I could go to someone and say, hey, everyone, we really need to transform kids' gender attitudes so that sexual violence doesn't exist for the next generation. But, people have their own immediate things on their mind. And like, who's going to so what? Like, I'm here just trying to keep my classroom under control or run my company or whatever it is. And so the main thing here is that a container can be a product, it can be a service, it can be a program, or it can even be a fundraise. A container is a way for you to host your own tea party, your own little space to invite other people in. You're creating a really strong container so that other people can join you in your vision. And this is part of the way that you figure out your pitching as well. My container was my program. And the way that it was structured, basically, and inviting people to join me in that, to invest in it, to partner with it, to run it. Okay, so number 3 for goddess leadership, I let myself be seen and heard and became a magnet for values-aligned people. So I'm going to play a really quick game with you guys. So let me know really quick in the chat box, what is the first thing you feel in your body, or the first word that comes to mind when I say these words? Pitching. Selling. Pushing it out, going hard. Fear, anxiety, doubt, hard, seriousness, rough. Convincing a customer. Converting a customer, nervous, insecure, pressure. Telling someone what he wants to hear. Pressure, being fake. Okay, Thank you. The grind, nervous, fake anxiety. Now tell me how you feel or what comes to mind when I say the following words. Being yourself. Letting yourself be seen and heard. Love, power, freedom, power, validated power, relief, comfort, breath, confident. Okay. Letting customers come to you where there's a natural fit. Open in the vortex. In flow. Honesty. Yay, the dream. It feels so good. Okay. Letting investors find you where there's love and respect. Letting investors stay far away where there isn't. Joy, I made it. Amazing. The dream, utopia. Wow. Okay, great. So we're just going to talk real quick about pushing versus receiving. So now there's a lot more awareness that men, women, non-binary, everyone has masculine and feminine energy in our bodies. You have masculine and feminine energy. Masculine yang, feminine yin, Shiva, Shakti, the two polarities. So masculine energy is left brain. It's competitive. It's assertive. It's practical and logical. And more than anything, is driven by ego or status, and not in a bad way. I'm just saying that it's ego-based. It's based on personality or your relationship with others. So that's basically means it's out to in. Let's look at the data, let's crunch the numbers, and let's assess the next feature we want to put into the product. Otherwise, you look at feminine energy, right? So feminine energy is right brain. It's imaginative, it's collaborative, it's receiving others. It's intuitive, but moreover, it's purpose-driven. So it's in to out. So feminine energy says, what is the vision? What is the thing percolating in my heart, in my body? And what is that guiding me to do or be or say? And so this is primarily the difference between being externally validated versus being internally sourced.
Can I ask a question that I know might be swimming through some minds, but maybe, out of fear or just social norms, no one wants to tackle it. So I love that you're making a point to share that we have this holistic sense of energy within us, masculine and feminine, yin yang, and you are sharing with us how to pitch like a goddess. So for someone who might think, oh, this isn't for me because of, I was not born this way, or I don't identify as such, how do you reiterate to this person that they can also pitch like a goddess? Because you seem to be speaking about some really, deeply rooted awareness that we all have access to if we just listen and, go with our intuitive, and supported pulse. I don't really know how to say it like that, but for that person that's thinking that this is not an option for me, how would you clarify?
Yeah, so each of us embody both of these all the time. But what's happened is that there's an excess of masculine energy in all of our industries and systems. So the thing is that we've been taught how to do it the masculine way really well, and we know that really well, but we haven't been taught the other side of it. So when we consciously embody the feminine side first, that's when we become magnets. And so that basically means that, yes, you take the actions, yes, you assert yourself, and you trust and you surrender and you listen to your intuition at the same time. And that's the dance, and that's the way that we walk the line. And so everyone should be doing this. If there's anything in your body that feels stressed out by only doing it the one way, then that means that the other side needs to be balanced. And a lot of men come to me and they're like, this is so freeing for me, because especially men often feel like they're not given a choice in like the way that, they can be. So yeah, it's for everyone. And it's like pitch like a goddess. Like, yeah, it's like feminine first, because we have to balance out the excess of the masculine. It's not like feminine only, it's just feminine first. Like, how can we be conscious of that? So that's where it comes into like, this is how I let myself be seen and heard fully and become a magnet for values aligned people. So the insight here for me was that instead of pushing harder, I let myself be seen and heard. So that's like a really crazy paradigm shift, because there were so many parts of me that were pitching and sharing, but was I really letting myself be seen and heard? Like, I don't know, like that's scary. But the second that I opened myself more to be seen and heard in my actual vision was when the right people started coming to me. And I think the pinnacle of that was when I was on a reality show, and I was like, we filmed like 8 episodes of this show called The Real Deal. And I was basically pitching live to 10 million people across India, talking about sex. and and so and like my grandma, like my aunts and uncles, like everyone was watching the show.
All I'm gonna say is somebody's got to do it. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, but that's really where those quantum leaps and those quantum results come in, because you can grind for 12 hours a day as much as you want, or you can spend 5 minutes authentically expressing yourself at scale and let the right people zoom into your field. So those are 3 major goddess leadership principles. My vision chose me. I create a container for others to join me, and then I let myself be seen and heard. So I have a couple of slides on how this actually applies to your pitch deck. And so I want to go through those pretty quickly so that we can also chat and learn and have the questions. Before I dive into that, is there anything that anyone wants to say?
Oh, that's a big question. I'm sure people are just chewing on that. Nothing is coming up in the chat.
Just want to breathe or
yeah, nothing's calling my attention in the chat, but if you all are here, please go ahead and drop things in the chat, or just, let us know that you'd like to hop off mute so that on the next pause, we can give you permission to hop off mute or just raise the, perfect. All right, Samantha's got something.
Raising hands. See, I can start raising the hands and then we'll get them right after these next slides.
Okay, perfect.
Great, awesome. Okay, so what the F does this have to do with my pitch deck? All right, so number 1, my vision chose me. I'm a channel for my vision. So if you're looking at a basic like 10 to 12 slide investor deck, what I see, like 95% of the decks that come across my desk, like particularly those that are from purpose-driven founders, is that you're absolutely not embracing the fullness of your big vision and purpose and your uniqueness as the founder of this venture. So this means that in the first few slides, you have like the problem opportunity slide. And then I also like to do a user slide. So say the problem is that, the big problem is that that holistic or preventative healthcare is completely missing from the healthcare system, and it's inaccessible because insurance doesn't cover it and people don't know how to navigate holistic healthcare, right? So say that's the big vision. What you really need to do is you need to have a few statistics backing this up. You need to be talking about why is this the time to focus on this problem? And you need to be talking about what is it in your lived experience that makes you literally the only person who can kind of go in and address the gap in that ecosystem. So it's why this, why now, and why you? And so when you go from the big picture slide, I always the next slide, I like to do a specific user. So Anne has suffered for 45 years with this chronic illness, over dependence on medication, and her insurance system doesn't cover the sorts of remedies that can actually heal her. You want to get deep into that pain with that one user, because as an investor or whoever it is that you're pitching to, basically we just need to know that you know your customer extremely well, and that there's 100 million Anns out there that comprise this larger ecosystem, which you just told me about in the problem opportunity slide. And often what's cool is you could actually add a line about yourself as well after that, being you know what, and I experienced this too. My relative had this illness that was later healed because we figured out how to get insurance for it or whatever, right? And so as an investor, it's actually like, if you look at it tactically, it's like huge risk reduction to know that the founders themselves like know this so intimately and also understand their customers. Something that people get tripped up on is like they'll do one or the other. So they'll do like the user story, but they won't tie it into the giant gap in the marketplace, which is like a multi-billion-dollar problem. You'll be like, you'll stay focused on your solution. So if your solution is just like the insurance piece, you'll be like, oh, we're just solving like this insurance piece, but you won't actually blow it out to what that means for the larger system, because there's multi-layered impact for your smaller product that you've created. And so if you can even do a brainstorming session for yourself on what is the multi-layered impact, who are all the stakeholders who get impacted, and create that story at the beginning, it's gonna pack a punch, because you have to realize that the sorts of investor decks that are coming across people's desks, it's like anything from like, here's like another like pet sitting app, or to like, here's like I just came up with this like idea to create like a sweater vest that has like sensors in it, to like, there's like there's like all across the gamut. So if you have anything that remotely can solve a big systems issue, it needs to be illustrated in its fullness. Okay, number 2, create a container for others to join me in my vision. So the way that this plays out is changing your fundraising amount based on responses from people. So it's like when you're in your grounded state, being like, okay, what is the next level for my venture? Okay, I need to raise 600K to get there. And then you start having conversations with people, and then you're like, you know what? It's okay. I could do with 100K. And then you like change it all across the board. And then everyone can feel that kind of unstable energy that you have. Whereas when you decide I'm raising 600K, and you just stay anchored in that as you're going through your conversations, that's when the universe responds, and like, that money starts coming in, because there's only one right amount to raise. I truly believe that. That's the amount that will get you to the next level. And so you have to be very intentional in setting that amount and sticking to it. And even if you're raising micro amounts, it's like toward keeping the vision of like, it's towards this goal of the next level. Number 2 is changing your pitch deck endlessly based on feedback from investors. So you want to do your first version of your deck, do a round of circulation and get all the feedback. You're not changing it after every conversation. Like you just got off the phone, you're like going into your PowerPoint and like changing the numbers. Like, no, you have to see patterns in what people have given you, and make tactical changes, tune into your vision, and then look at the feedback and make tactical changes based on that. And then codify that and pitch deck and hold it. That's the next level version of your pitch deck, and hold it for dear life. Hodl it and like Bitcoin, and just like your deck is an expression of your own vision to get to the next level, right? And so if you're just looking for validation from like that one guy that said that one thing about that one metric, like it's gonna mess with your own like anchoring and your own stability in your fundraise. Great. Next one. Okay, so I let myself be seen and heard fully, and I become a magnet for values-aligned people. So the way that I see this played out over and over is like, oh, like people are it's just such a big solution, and like people aren't going to be able to understand it. So I'm going to dial it down to fit it into like their box. Or I'm going to dilute the message, or I'm going to make it less about the impact, or right. And so this is really important, because you're doing a disservice to the person sitting in front of you. People, like humans, will understand another human if you're really authentically like sharing with them what it is. Like when people aren't receiving it, it's not because it's too complicated or it's like too big. It's because you're not letting yourself be seen and heard fully. And like, not to be harsh, but like, that's just the reality of it. And so it's bringing the fullness of the vision down to the human level and then starting those communicating it to people where they can receive it. False belief, you don't have the skills or network to magnetize capital or partnerships, like, oh, I'm a woman, I'm Black or brown, I don't live in San Francisco, like all of these things, like, yeah, there's external factors, but at the end of the day, I believe in your creatorship. I've seen founders from everywhere, all sorts of founders raise all sorts of money. And so it's about drawing a line in the sand for yourself and deciding that this is happening. Because when you're holding that container also, especially pre-seed stage, like everyone's an angel, like anyone can invest in you at any level. So it's literally like everyone in your network is a potential investor. So the major insight here is shut off your mind, take action consistently, and then let the right people come into you in divine timing. And celebrating every single dollar that comes in, like celebrating creation over outcomes, like, and not being like, oh, I didn't hit this exact amount of time. Like, that's not the point. The point is like, you created like 50K already out of the 300K. Like, that's a huge deal. Like, that is validation of your own creatorship. And so staying in that as you're fundraising. So I'm going to stop here really quick so that we can actually do questions.
Yes, great. Well, thank you so much for the detail, for the thoughtfulness there. I know you've got way more to share, so I appreciate you having a pause for our questions here. We do have about 12 minutes left, everyone. So I see that we do have some questions coming up in the chat box. Right now, I'm going to give preference to folks who are hopping off mute. So Samantha, go ahead and unmute yourself here and voice your question.
Hi, my name's Samantha. I am from the Philadelphia area. I appreciate all the conversation. It's nice to be around like-minded people. And I think that's like what you also said. It's about who you surround yourself with. It's not so much like female versus male, although it is, because I grew up in a business world and a car dealership. So I'm used to that energy. My barrier is doctor versus patient for the most part. Everything you said about being aware, I mean, I am a spinal cord injury patient, which means I have a neurological condition. I am up against doctors and I am up against other people in my situation who have been told over and over again that they will not recover. And I mean, not recover at all. So I put a pause on my own life, and I've been I'm very into the martial arts world, which then showed me a lot of things that you are powerful and you can do. But I, through the strength of mind and body awareness, I have come from a complete spinal cord injury with no chance of recovery to now it's about postural correction along with, being aware. I can squeeze all my muscles from my legs all the way up.
I don't mean to, so can you just get to the question?
Well, my question is really how, in a pitch deck, I view that more in a storytelling sense instead of an investor. Like, I want to take this message and share it with other people on a stage, that they can do this and they will do this if they follow certain protocols. So I don't know how to get I don't even know how to get regular people to listen to me, especially investors. So I don't know if, you have any recommendations, but I'm trying.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story, and I honor your healing journey, and it's truly remarkable. And I think that you've been through a lot and that you've processed a lot, and there's been a lot of lessons you've learned in your own healing journey. And I think that it's oftentimes there needs to be a pause between the finishing of the healing journey and then the sharing of the wisdom. And that's something. Wait, let me just finish my feedback real quick. And that's something that I experienced in my own journey. And so the quick feedback that without having the chance to go in deeper with you, but the quick feedback I'd give you is, if there's a practice or a way for you to be able to start to really write out all of the things that you learned in like bullets, and then create one micro story for each thing that you learned, where you can remember like, oh yeah, there was like a story where this happened and that's what taught me that thing. Those micro stories will be a really good bridge for people to connect with your experience.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I'm going to give you guys a little link later, so whoever wants to can connect deeper after.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we've got about 8 minutes left. Thank you, Samantha, for hopping off mute. And I do know that we've got folks who want to continue the conversation after these next 8 minutes. So this is actually a good time. Can you just shout out, in case folks are rewatching this and they don't have access to the chat box, how can people get in touch with you when we finish this conversation?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you vibed with this, and if you're looking to get to the next level in your impact venture, so you're a founder, you have a venture, and either you're looking to raise capital or just kind of get to the next level of your embodied leadership, I'm totally happy to have a complimentary call with you. So I'm putting my link in the chat box right now. So that's for a 45-minute free session with me, where we can actually create a roadmap for you to get to whatever the outcome is you're looking for. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that in the chat. Please, please, please reach out to Nilima. She clearly has a beautiful and necessary perspective. And, at the very least, it'll be interesting for you to just get different perspectives to help support you. So I want to jump to a question that was submitted previous. And, I'd love for you to take this however you want, run with it, or you can, answer it short and sweet. I'll give you the option there, but I find this to be interesting here because it connects what you're saying about that authenticity and just also being in a system that doesn't necessarily support or give us consent or make us feel like we can be our fullest, biggest, brightest selves. So this question reads, how do you realistically talk about tech and get everyone excited, but not overpromise and stay authentic and real to a blend of marketers and developers?
Marketers and developers. Okay. So that's a funny blend because you have like developers and marketers, like completely different. So what I would say is start with, like we were saying, start with the big vision. So talk about the gap in the marketplace that you're addressing and like the size of that. Go into that user story, because all humans connect to the user stories, whether you're a marketer or developer. Right. And then when you get into the tech and the traction, that's where I want you to talk about the value proposition of like the way that the tech is actually solving the problem for the user. Right. And when you talk about that traction, I want you to stay anchored in the numbers. So if you have 30 users, like you have 30 humans who are actually like being impacted by this, they love it, like demonstrate the product market fit in different ways. You can use like retention rates or like buying rates, or like how fast it's growing week on week or month on month, or like maybe even just like this is how fast we're rolling out the features. But try not to inflate the numbers, because it'll make you feel like you're striving like outside of what it actually is, and just try to own the numbers that you have and like paint them in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yes, I love that feedback, because again, the industry right now is definitely dominated by, numbers driven, data driven. But where do we fit our humanity in that? So I love that you're calling out 30 people, it's 30 human bodies. Why try to just to focus on that goodness and enhance that by, connecting the data points that people, do need to read and see to feel comfortable, because maybe that's the language that they use. So I really appreciate that reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. And check it out. Like if 30 people are like, if there's amazing product market fit, like then everyone knows that you can 100x that in like whatever time frame. But if you have like, even if you have 1,000 people and like the product is messing up, there's no product market fit, like that's not scalable. And so it's like really, it's really about that user fit anyway. It doesn't really, I mean, numbers are like, they change on the daily. So
yeah, totally. Thanks for that. Don writes, it's so important to tell our story along with the value prop. Great, great. I agree. Storytelling is key. We need to hear more voices, more stories, more perspectives, so that we can just, be a little more holistic in the way that we contribute our services and our talents and our energy to the world. Work is more about, I love that the conversation is shifting. It's not just about money. Of course, we live in a system where we have to get a certain amount to have a roof over our heads, to have food. But I think that what's happening now, and I actually would love to get your comment on this, that more and more people are, resigning, especially in the States. A lot of people are career pivoting as well. A lot of people are wanting to start their own business. How can we use this energy, this collective energy? And what do you think it speaks to? I mean, just like to really end this conversation on, a visionary level. I would just love to get your feedback there.
Yeah. So people used to be slaves to certainty, because it's like, if I don't know that there's going to be $3,000 in my account at the end of the month, then like, how am I going to pay rent? And then I'm going to get evicted, and then I'm going to be homeless. Like, the mind used to go in these spirals. And I think that people are experiencing a shift in consciousness and deep healing and awakening, where we realize that a lot of the things that we were slaves to were that were self-created in a way. Because if you can believe in the certainty of like, I am resourceful, I can create something that will create certainty for myself, right? If you can believe in your own resourcefulness, then you're free from that like spiral. So I think it's linked to like the being able to be like really conscious about your thoughts, and then make those changes in your own life as well. Liberate yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for your time. We've just got about 2 more minutes left. And I see folks are singing praises here in the chat box, saying thank you for everything. Again, you've already dropped a lot of knowledge, but can you leave us with some food for thought, something that, maybe we can start thinking about right now when we press end, and then just remind us how we can connect with you again. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that like it's possible for you to create anything, like say in like 3 months. And I think we get so hung up on like, what do I have to do today or like tomorrow? But if you're just like, hey, what do I want to create in 3 months? Like, I've had founders raise like 400K in 4 weeks, or like just like get the right feedback in my program that changed their pitch. And then someone who she knew, who was like an acquaintance for years, she had another conversation with him, and she signed a $500,000 business contract with him like the next week. And this is going from like nothing, like no pitch deck, no website, anything. And so often we don't give enough credit to like the ways that things can just shift in an instant, if we stay in that space, in the right energy of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective and for reminding us. And just how can folks connect with you when we finish
absolutely. Here? So let me, oh yeah, you're welcome. I'll put my email address in here again, but I would really love for you guys to sign up for the 45-minute call with me if this is vibing with you. And please sign up for a slot in the next 2 weeks so that we can ride the energy of this session. So I've put that in here again.
Great. And then for folks who are not here in the chat, who are rewatching maybe tomorrow.
You don't have to add the coupon code. So just don't add a code and just click on the time zone and it should work.
Right. And your website, again, can you say just out loud in case
people are in the chat? Go to thefemalefounderslab.com.
Perfect. Awesome.
And you can get on the mailing list as well on thefemalefounderslab.com on the homepage.
Yes, yes. It's been such a pleasure to hear your process, your story, your lived experience. Thank you for encouraging us to be our authentic selves, and to pitch like a goddess. I love this. I'm going to go and review some things I've locked up in the cave and and see how to just, take some of these processes and some of these things that you've been sharing with us today. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to leave the Zoom room open, but because we need to work on some things at Power to Fly. But everyone, you're welcome to sign out. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next chat and learn, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you. All right. So yes, just to remind everyone, this is over. We've ended our session here, and we're just going to leave this open to work on some things. So please go ahead on with your days, and we'll see you on the next chat. All right, Paloma, I'm going to make you the co-host. See, there you are. All right. All right. Bye, everyone. Make you the actual host instead of co-host. There you are. All right. See you.